Hey everybody, this is Perch, and if you're shit, if you're watching the news, well, I mean, yeah, who knows if you're watching news or not? Liz Truss just resigned as a British PM, so that's the timestamp for when this video was made. Now it will go up, days, weeks, who knows? But that's where we're at. It's kind of funny because I'm engaged in a call right now with a bunch of people in the UK, so literally the news just broke, and then they got too distracted to keep going. So we hung up the call, and I said I had time, good time for a video. And so the news hasn't quite filtered into Twitter to make everybody's life miserable over the next 8 hours when that's all anybody talks about, and a ton of people have no idea who Liz Truss or the UK system or Parliament or any of that kind of stuff even is. Start giving their opinions on it, but the part I'll get, and I want to preface this by saying, for my friends there in the UK, obviously the system of government there is complex. So some of what I say is not going to apply. I'm not an idiot who's going to try and say that everything is analogous. It's not. But what strikes me, so the basics around Liz Truss, I think Liz Truss has been the prime minister for 45 days, roughly. I think 40, so a short amount of time. And basically, yeah, 45 days was the prime minister. 44 days. Sorry, I'm looking. 44 days. Well, Liz Truss came into office after Boris Johnson quit. Liz Truss really kind of, in a lot of ways, it came into a shit show, and then didn't make the shit show better. Is kind of the best way. I think there was a giant mess on energy. There was a giant mess on kind of the whole global economy. And by the way, as you know, we can all talk about kind of various smaller problems. I did a video, I won't say 4 months ago, talking about recession and economic conditions, and saying it's absolutely going to be a fucking bloodbath. And so I'll repeat again, it is absolutely going to be a fucking bloodbath over the next 18 months. Show up your investments, diversify, all these kinds of things. It's bad. It's going to be, there is not like the Republicans win the House and the Senate, it's not going to magically get better. We're on a collision course now. One of the things about stocks and finance and the economy and all these things is you should think about it a little bit like a slow moving barge. And if you've ever seen a cruise ship or a giant ship, you can cut the engines. And because of the momentum, the thing's going to continue to just kind of lurch forward for a long period of time because it's a big, heavy block of metal. And that's what they do. They just kind of continue to shift forward. And if you're going to try and divert them, there's a bunch of really, I don't know, I find fascinating videos on YouTube of giant cruise ships and tanker ships fucking up coming into port. And so they come into port wrong, and they like just slam in, things fall down, dock explodes, fires. Like there's some absolutely hilarious, I mean, not, obviously property damage and hopefully not human life, but just some hilarious chaos that cruise ships can do. But it proves the point that when they hit these kind of walls, they don't stop. They keep lurching forward and crushing a lot in their path. It takes a lot to stop them. So why is that analogy apt? Hey, that's our economy, and little changes. Biden signing a piece of legislation. The change in leadership in the Senate. Those things may have an effect over time. Hopefully positively. You hope that the actions people take, whatever party you're on, are going to have some kind of positive effect. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But regardless, you're not going to see it tomorrow. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly see all the changes. That it's the one kind of scary thing as you're watching kind of the social media impact is there is this kind of expectation in people's heads that you do something and then tomorrow everything's all different. It's one reason why a lot of the advocacy and protests and everything are largely useless, because we have stuck in people's heads, typically millennials, that they can go out with a sign, they can shout for 4 hours, or they can do a social media awareness thing on Twitter, And suddenly, poverty, world hunger, sex trafficking, etc., will be different with their efforts. It's kind of the next evolution of getting a participation trophy for being in a soccer game, even though your team lost. It's like, I came out and I yelled for a while. The world is better. I raised awareness. And yeah, nobody gives a shit about the awareness. And with these big topics, you don't need to raise awareness. For example, raising awareness on climate change, I'm sorry, it's a fucking waste of time. People know that there's some climate change, or they don't believe in climate change, one or the other. Going and posting a funny meme on Twitter is, hopefully you're doing that to make people laugh, because you're doing that to change the hearts and minds. You're wasting your time. Regardless, Liz Truss resigns, and basically had a number of actions. I won't bore you all by going through them, but basically a number of things. Her economic program was failing. But now, would it have worked? We just gave it another couple of years, maybe. But there was no, there absolutely, it had moved from disaster to complete shit show disaster. And so she resigned. And where I got to thinking in regards to comics, and again, this sign, the very quick resignation after 44 days, is another indication that we are in deep shit. And you buckle down. It is not going to be pretty for a while. The world doesn't like to take this kind of chaos, and there's a lot of chaos being shoved at the world right now. So that said, comics. This is a comics channel. We've spent a decent amount of time talking about politics now, but comics. Here's the kind of bit I want to throw out to you, and then get your feedback, and hopefully you have some good comments on it. The one thing, and there'll be a lot said about Liz Truss being a failure and the policies being bad, or that she failed because she should have stuck it out and she didn't. Depending on what your political party is, you're likely to have kind of a variety of opinions on this. But most people are going to align on she failed, and for different reasons, but they're going to align on she failed. So, what if comics operated the same way? What if you bring in leadership, and CB Cebulski comes in, and you look at the numbers, and you say, 3 months goes by. I mean, in this case, 44 days. Man, a prime minister of a country, 44 days. But imagine, a few months goes by, sales aren't up, person comes in, puts some initiatives into place. And imagine if leadership is like, you know what, it's not going to work. I'm out. Screw it. I quit. I resign. Or, this isn't even fired. This is resign. Now, people, in the UK will tell you that she was headed for a vote of no confidence, and, she was going to quit or be fired relatively quickly. But so she picked the quit option. But imagine if this was how it was in comics. What if a creative team came on, sales didn't go up, critical response was in the toilet, and the person's like, we're just going to stop. Screw it, stop. What do you think that would do? I mean, there's different layers of this, but what would that do to the collectors and the readers? So at a leadership level, CB Cebulski, I mean, honestly, they could change the person in that job every month for 2 years. And I think the average reader, unless the quality went up or down, is not going to care or think about whatever Cebulski's got going on. He's going to be kind of irrelevant to the whole thing. But, imagine if a creative team bailed out of a book. So, for example, and this is where I've done a different video talking about how there's not enough data guiding comics, but you take something like Robin, and you do a bunch of things, put some incentive covers into play and everything else, and so you spike the sales in the first issue, but you look at the reviews and you're like, and this end product is just not good. Obviously that's kind of a subjective call, but still, what if you're like, this is just, close your eyes, try to picture this creative team in this story, 24 issues from now. Because there are some additional, money and incentives and things that come for the publisher, definitely not the creative team, if a comic gets to 24 issues. If you get to 2 years, you get to do more things with it. You get more options for trades, you get a little bit more preferential behavior in bookstores, or just some things unlock if you can get to a longer series. If it's positioned as a series as opposed to a limited series, you get some benefit. So what if, three issues in, you're like, there's no way we're going to go 2 years from this. The story isn't there. The creative team isn't working. What if the writer's like, I gave it my best. I wanted to do this, but you know what? Nope, it's not, I'm not feeling it. The fans aren't feeling it. Sales aren't there. I'm done. What if a lot of comics just ended far faster? Just rather than kind of drag out and shuffle and let's try again and here's a new jumping on point and all the rest. What if it's like, you know what, fuck it, we're going to put our time into things that we think have a shot. And so you had that same kind of bailout. I don't know, what would that look like? I think, by the way, we're about to see a lot more of that in other forms of life, certainly politics, business. I think, people rarely talk about it, but various CEOs of companies, there's an increasing trend of the CEO to be kind of out after 6 months. If things are not, if the ship is not turning around now, like I said, like the economy, things don't turn around radically fast. But you do have indicators that you've at least started to put things in place that are going to create a recovery. What if, rather than kind of just sitting out, people pulled the plug faster? Would that wreck things as a collector of comics? If suddenly a bunch of things were just kind of starting and ending after a couple of issues, would that be chaos? Or would that be a sign of, hey, this company's going to work harder to try and, figure out what lands with the readers? Is that fair to creatives? What do you think? Now think about it a little bit. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and see you later, Liz.